Welcome to Impact, bringing you global developments likely to affect Sri Lanka. This week we cover India's growing inflation to drive Sri Lanka's prices higher. China's 2022 GDP growth rate cut to 2.8%. Potential new sanctions on Iran to impact Sri Lanka's tea exports. Cuts to oil production to affect global prices. India's retail inflation accelerated to a 5-month high of 7.3% in September. Erratic rainfall and supply shocks from Russia's invasion of Ukraine drove food prices higher. Such comes as last week India raised its interest rates for the 4th time this year to tame inflation, and the real economic growth forecast for the year was cut to 7%. Impact on Sri Lanka. India is Sri Lanka's main source of food imports. An attempt to convert to organic fertilizer placed the country's entire food industry in peril, increasing reliance on food imports. Higher food prices in India will translate into elevated prices in the Sri Lankan market. The World Bank cut China's GDP growth rate for 2022 to 2.8% from 5%, citing COVID-0 policies and the housing market crisis. This places the country's economic expansion behind the rest of the Asia-Pacific region for the first time in more than 30 years. Impact on Sri Lanka. As trade with China is relatively low, significance is on potential aid and investment. In July, Sri Lanka asked China for more trade, investment and tourism, and for $4 billion in emergency aid. Calls are increasing to place more sanctions on Iran. Unrest in the country continues to grow following the death of Mahsa Amini while in Iranian police custody. Impact on Sri Lanka. Iran is the 5th largest buyer of Ceylon tea and is also a source to procure oil. Whilst oil purchases have reduced due to existing sanctions, tea purchases have improved. With Sri Lanka's overall tea exports declining, further sanctions on Iran will affect the domestic industry. Global oil prices are rebounding from a 9-month low. Cuts to oil production by OPEC and Russia, fears of a global recession, and a prolonged Russia-Ukraine conflict are fueling price increases. Impact on Sri Lanka. Despite such activity, we feel domestic fuel prices are likely to be maintained unless there is sustained significant rise in global prices in the near term. At the last adjustment date on the 30th of September, price of 92-octane petrol was reduced by 40 rupees per litre, while the diesel prices were left unadjusted. And that's a wrap for this week. Join us next time as we update you of global developments impacting Sri Lanka.